Hi, my first name is Dominic Vera, and I am from Kensington, Maryland. And my story starts with my mother's side. And really, it starts with my grandmother, who was born in Ireland at a farmhouse in 1870s. Around that time was when she was born. And we do have a really big family farm there. It's a very old house that's still there. It's about 300 years old. And my grandmother decided to leave when she was 19 years old. And she took a train to Queenstown, which is now called Cove. And so she took the train to catch the boat to get to Boston. And then she took a train to Chicago, and that's where she met my great-grandfather. And they were married and did some savings, and they sent money to back to Ireland, and that was in 1890, I believe, the 1890s, if I'm not mistaken. And then my uncle was also sent some money. And then so he was able to use the money he was sent to arrive in Chicago. And then the oldest brothers actually stayed on the farm and took care of that, took care of the farm, family farm there. And so let's see, I am third generation Irish American, and that's my story. So I have gone to Ireland twice. The first time that I went, I arrived from going to Sweden. I actually went there for a week, and then I went to Ireland afterwards. And I was enthralled by the country. It's beautiful. I just felt like I cannot believe it. You know, my family is from there, and I was feeling like I was going back to where my family was from. So I did go to Dublin first. I was there for the first night, and I saw the River Liffey, and I felt connected. How do you describe it? It was magic. I felt just completely enthralled to be there. And then the next morning, I got onto the train, and I went from Dublin to Houston. I went to the train station there and took that to Galloway. And once I arrived there, I met my cousin, who's a similar age to myself. And we were both, we just knew right away. Had a connection with each other right away. It was so nice to meet each other and felt that bond right away. So I did go to his home, and he told me a little bit about my family and told me a little bit about the farmhouse there. And we did rent a car, and we eventually went to the farmhouse, excuse me, once we rented the car. And my cousin's name is Burge. And once we got to the house, it's in the village of Ardian. It's a little farm area. It's a little small town in that area called Grange. And it's Granagh is actually how you spell it. So it's in that area. It's a little farmhouse. So we got to that town, just a little small cottage, and the front area has a yard, and it's just beautiful. I mean, the front yard was green, and there was little flowers, and there was a separated garage. And it was way too small for us to get the car through the back garage area, so we parked on the side. And it's also driving on the opposite side, so I wasn't quite used to that. You know, the steering wheel's on the opposite side as here. And then my cousin, Maiko, was also there. And let's see, how old was he at the time? I think he was 81 at the time, or 82, I'm not quite sure. But so when we met each other, we had that same connection. Like, I felt like I had known him for forever. And it was so cool that he had that close connection with my grandmother as well. So we went into the house, and It was just tiny. In the middle of the house, there was this little small area with a fireplace on the side, and everything was old. The table was old, and there's two little bedrooms. There's a bedroom on the side, and it had a window that you could look out of. And the window panes were a little bit pushed back. It's hard to describe, but it was almost like there was a little bit of a ledge area between the room and the window. Kind of like a little thin wall. It was kind of removed from the room. So anyway, I was looking out that window, looking out to the yard, and I saw my cousins out there, and I just felt like it was almost like a picture book. I was just looking out there and seeing my family. And the family was actually looking at a picture book of, or album, excuse me, of my family. And I was even crying because I was able to see these pictures, but even though these people had been passed away many years ago, 20 or 30 years ago, it was still really emotional for my cousin and everyone to see those pictures. So everyone was crying in that moment. So once we had left, we went to the backyard, and there was a little kitchen area that's attached to the back of the house. Really tiny. I mean, everyone was kind of smushed in there together. So the kitchen, it's this little tiny cute kitchen that's attached to the back of the house, and I don't even know exactly how big it was, but they also had the bathroom attached, and it kind of had a sunken in area on the bottom, on the floor, and I don't know how to explain that very well either, but the bathroom is kind of like, I think it was an addition. I would say it was about 30 or 40 years ago when they added the bathroom. So they didn't want to have the family keep going in and out to go to the outhouse, so that was why they added the addition of the bathroom so recently. And so they showed me around the back, and we were able to walk towards this farm area that's in the back, and I saw cows and sheep, and it was just beautiful. We saw Suffolk area as well. Oh, excuse me, it's a type of sheep that was black and white and was just beautiful. And so we went out there, walked around there, and saw the different animals. We're able to actually touch the animals, but they were a little bit frightened by me. But it was just flat and beautiful, and you could see so far, and it was just green, and it was beautiful. So we came back into the house, and one of my other cousins, that was Mary, she got there, and I was able to meet her. She was very excited to meet me too. We briefly chatted, and then we got back into the car and went to the cemetery where my great uncle is buried. My grandmother's uncle, the oldest brother of my grandmother. So my great uncle is buried there. And I was able to see the cross on their gravestone. It was a Gaelic cross. And it was just this tiny little graveyard, and it had been there for quite some time. And it was unmarked. A lot of the stones were unmarked in that area as well. But it did have my great uncle's name on there. And the trees, they were quite old, gnarly old trees. And after that, we went back to a different area because there was another graveyard near the house. And my cousins have been buried there as well, so we were able to see that. And then we left the area to go to Cary. And we also went to County Clare as well. Do we have time? Okay, perfect. So we went to County Clare, and we visited the Cliffs of Moher, which was beautiful. It was amazing to see that. The cliffs were incredible. I mean, we had the perfect day too. We thought it was gonna get rained on. We thought we were gonna get rained on, but it was beautiful. And then we went to Limerick after that, and we met some friends there. And we then drove to Kerry County afterwards. But we also wanted to go to Killarney as well. There's a national park in that area, which was also incredibly beautiful. And we got there in the morning and it was just, everything was green. The flowers were in bloom. It was just beautiful. It was a different scenery, but it was still quite beautiful. Then we went back to my cousin's house and we stayed there together with the whole family, having a meal. And then afterwards we left that. And when I went back to the United States, I was honestly heartbroken. I think it was not until 2 years later that I got to go back to Ireland, and I ended up staying a whole month that time. I got to go all around. I went to Dublin, all the areas around there. But I also think my favorite part of the trip was the Guinness house, the brewery there. That was pretty amazing. The 360 view on the top of the Guinness brewery was just incredible. I mean, that was another time that I was in tears just at the beauty of seeing the city. So it was really nice to see all the different history, the museums, learning about the movements that went on during the time, the presidents that were there during those times, and learning about the Great Famine and all the history that Ireland has. It really impacted me a lot, and I really cherish that time that I had there. We also went to Aran Island, which I completely fell in love with. It's quite different than the mainland area. There's little stone fences everywhere, and that's incredible too. The weather's even different. Then we went to, well, we had the trip to Limerick, and then we also stayed on the island Skyleg Island. They actually filmed Star Wars there, which was pretty cool. But there was no rail, so you would walk up and you kind of have to be really careful. I was actually a little bit scared. I was worried about falling, so I thought about not going, but my friend tried to encourage me to go up, and they actually gave me a little support, but I was pretty nervous and scared about getting to the top of there. But the view once I got there was incredible. So once you're on top of the island, you can see the whole island and all the different surrounding areas. There's actually a lot of birds flying around as well, so that was quite an incredible trip. And then we also went to the area where the monks used to live. That was in the 17th to 18th century when there was monks living there. And then that's when afterwards the Vikings came to the area and took over. I'm sorry, when the Vikings came, they went to that area to avoid the Viking takeover. So then we went back to the mainland and we did more traveling there. It was just beautiful. I mean, everything is so green. And then the next day, my friends and I drove to Dingle, the peninsula, which was incredible as well. But it was one way to drive. The road was one way, so it was pretty scary because you're on a cliffside. So I just tried to make my way through safely, and there's also a point where you go up on the road and then you come back down and it becomes a little bit more flat, and you can just see all the greenery again. The mountainside is just incredible. It's beautiful. So you get up to the top of there, and as you're looking around, the cloud came through as we were at the top of there, and I was feeling quite touched because I felt like I was getting that whole experience once we were at the top. And then we went into the village, and they had Gaelic language all over the village. There was no English written there, so that was pretty cool to see that too. Then we went back, and it was just really incredible. So I think we were there. I stayed with my cousin after that, and then after that, I went back to America, and I know I want another trip. I want to see more. I want to see Northern Ireland. I want to see the southern parts of Ireland as well that I haven't quite seen. But it's just been wonderful. Really, it's amazing. It's a magical trip. It's just an enchanted island. I feel very inspired, and I want everyone to be able to go and see that country and see how they live there.